Alright, let's look at solving inequalities. We're going to solve the inequality, we're going to write our answer in interval notation, and we're going to graph the solution. To solve an inequality, we want x on one side of the inequality and everything else to the other side. So we can add and subtract the same number to both sides of an inequality, and we can multiply and divide the same positive number to both sides of the inequality. If we multiply or divide both sides of an inequality by a negative number, we have to reverse the inequality symbol. And you'll see this in some of the examples that I work. So here, let's add 7 to both sides. So we get 2x is less than 6. Divide both sides by 2. We get x is less than 3. So let's go ahead and graph it. So we've got 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now this is x less than 0, so that's everything to the left. So if we graph it, we start at 3. Now we need to put an open circle because it's not less than or equal to. The open circle means that it does not include the 3. And then that's everything to the left. Now let's write our answer in interval notation. So it's everything coming from negative infinity all the way up to 3. And we use a parenthesis because the 3 is not included. Okay. Now let's look at this one. Let's subtract 5 to both sides. So we get negative 3x is less than 6. I'm going to divide both sides by negative 3. And since I'm dividing by a negative number, I have to reverse the symbol. So I get x is greater than negative 2. Now we graph it. Negative 3, negative 2, negative 1, 0, 1. So that's x greater than negative 2. I have an open circle because the negative 2 is not included, and then everything to the right. Now I write my answer in interval notation. So that's everything from negative 2, and it has a parenthesis because it's not included, all the way to infinity. Okay. Alright, let's take a look at this one. We have a fraction. So we want to get rid of the fraction. We're going to multiply everything by the common denominator, which in this case is negative 5. So I've got negative 5 times 8 plus 3x over negative 5. And since I'm multiplying both sides by a negative number, I have to reverse the symbol. So the negative 5's cancel. So I'm left with 8 plus 3x is less than or equal to 20. Then I subtract 8 to both sides. So I get 3x is less than or equal to 12. Divide both sides by 3. I get x is less than or equal to 4. So now I graph my solution. Okay. So that's everything less than or equal to 4. Now this time, on the 4, it's a closed-in circle. Okay, because the 4 is included. The closed-in circle means it's included, and that's everything to the left, less than 4. Now I'll write my answer in interval notation. So that's from negative infinity all the way up to 4. Now, since the 4 is included because it's less than or equal to, I use a bracket instead of a parenthesis. The bracket means it includes the 4. Alright, let's take a look at this one. first thing I want to do is get rid of the fraction. So I'm going to multiply each term by the common denominator, which is 6. So I get 6 times 1/2 x minus 6 times 2/3 less than or equal to 6 times x plus 6 times 4/3. So I'm left with 3x minus 4 less than or equal to 6x plus 8. So I'm going to subtract 3x to both sides. So that gives me negative 4 less than or equal to 3x plus 8. Then I subtract 8 to both sides. So I get negative 12 less than or equal to 3x. Divide both sides by 3. So I get negative 4 is less than or equal to x. Now, we're finished solving it, but let's write where the x is on the left hand side. So I have x, and we have to keep the inequality pointing the same way. So greater than or equal to negative 4. And you can see they both read the same thing. If we read from right to left, x is greater than or equal to negative 4. Here, x is greater than or equal to negative 4. So I graph my solution. So that's greater than or equal to negative 4. So it's a closed-in circle because the negative 4 is included, and it's everything to the right. So I'll write my answer in interval notation. That's negative 4, and since it's greater than or equal to, it's a bracket all the way to infinity. Okay. Alright, let's look at this one. I'm going to add 4x to both sides. So I get 6 is less than 7. Okay. Now, the x's went out, but I'll look at this. 6 less than 7, that's a true statement. So if I graph my solution, the solution is going to be all real numbers. 0, 1, negative 1. So if I graph it, it's the entire number line. Okay. And then I write my answer in interval notation. That's from negative infinity to positive infinity. Now let's look at this one. I'm going to clear the parentheses. So I get 8x minus 10 is greater than or equal to 8x minus 4. I subtract 8x to both sides. So I get negative 10 is greater than or equal to negative 4. The x's went out. This is a false statement, so it's no solution. And that's it.